In the 2019 NBA Draft, the Chicago Bulls selected Coby White. For those unfamiliar with Coby's game, White is a tough shot-making, pace-pushing ball of energy with a herky-jerk style that shakes defenders out of their boots. Coby had an up-and-down rookie year, but he ended his shortened rookie season on an absolute tear that included 3 30-point games in a row and a 26-point-per-game average over his final 9 games.
Wow, bro.
Coby was balling so hard that his play even forced he who shall not be named to finally start him in the final game before the shutdown.
Well, he's got a great spirit.
But with the league shut down and mounting pressure from a rabid fan base, the Bulls finally let go of the fan-favorite dyad GarPax, bringing in Arturus Karnisovas and Marc Eversely, who in turn let go of Lord Voldemort and brought in a real NBA coach and fellow Long Islander Billy John Donovan. And with that hiring, there's a new sheriff in town. A sheriff who expects Coby White to man the point for Chicago's once storied basketball team. And herein lies just one of the many questions facing Bulls fans. Is Coby White a point guard? Remember, Coby has thus far made his name as a hyper-speed bucket getter, not a playmaking wizard. Coby grew up in North Carolina playing for Chris Paul's AAU team, but although he trained with the point guard in CP3, White played more like Gilbert Arenas. Agent Zero was a phenomenal player in his prime, one that would undoubtedly be even better in today's NBA. But Arenas was a multi-time All-NBA player, and that's a damn high bar for almost any player to reach. And for every chance that White could be an Arenas-type talent, there's also the very real possibility that White could actually be more like Lou Williams, a guy who has a very real value as instant offense off the bench, but doesn't bring enough other things to the table to be a starter on a team with any real ambition. With new management and a new coaching staff, this is an evaluation year for White. He's been handed the keys to the car, and now it's his time to show that he can drive it. It's time for Coby White to show that he can make the jump. So how does Coby White actually make said jump? Well, if the 2020 preseason and early regular season are any indication, we know that Coby has locked down the starting point guard spot, and that means that he's playing next to Zachary LaVine, another bucket getter and also a not-so-clean fit as a backcourt mate. LaVine and White's strengths overlap, but I believe that in order for Coby to be the best version of himself, he still needs to focus on playing like himself, and that means playing fast and dictating the pace for his squad. When he plays with pace and gets going, he can be absolutely nuclear as a scorer. That's who Coby has always been, dating back to his time when he broke the all-time North Carolina high school scoring record. But in order for Coby to grow as a player, he needs to learn to be the natural scorer he is while adding the playmaking skills that are necessary to take advantage of the defensive attention that his scoring ability will bring. Thus far, Coby has been a mixed bag in trying to mesh these two worlds together. He's been fine making your regular, run-of-the-mill, game-managing type passes that most NBA-caliber players can make, but he's struggled in seeing the whole floor and more specifically, that weak side look that causes defenses to scramble and offenses to flourish. We're still very early in the season, and to Coby's credit, he's done a better job making that pass on a game-by-game basis. But he's still not quite at the point where it's a natural pass that Coby recognizes will be there before he makes his move. It's much more reactionary, whereas a guy like Luka Doncic is cognizant of the fact that when he pulls that help side defender to the strong side, he's going to have a wide open shooter that the defenses will have a tough time recovering out to. There's a certain cadence that the great passers play with that manipulate defenders to bend to their will. Coby isn't there yet, and honestly, it'd be surprising if he was, because he's pretty much playing a completely new position compared to his rookie season. And although pure point may not be in Coby's DNA, it doesn't mean that Coby can't be successful being the player that he is. There's a guy named Jamal Murray out in Denver who's pretty similar in mindset and play style, just a bit more seasoned, and oh yeah, he actually plays with a guy who accentuates his strengths and doesn't force him to be someone that he's not. Murray is by no means a traditional point guard, but playing off the Joker has allowed him to do the things he does best, which is get buckets. If Murray was in a different situation with more responsibility to involve his teammates, who knows how his career plays out? So maybe making the jump for Coby isn't just about learning how to facilitate like a traditional point guard. Maybe it's about the Bulls front office shuffling some pieces and trying to formulate a roster that makes a little more sense together. But until that day comes, White still has some things he needs to get better at if he ultimately wants to be more than a microwave scorer. To start, he needs to get better around the rim. White is around 53% from that area through his short career, and when you compare that number to the elite guys like Dame at 57%, Trey at 58%, or Jamal Murray at 62%, you start to realize he has a ways to go. The good news is that one of the ways for him to get that percentage up also solves that aforementioned problem of missing that weak side shooter. When White gets deep position, he often drives in without seeing the floor, leading to bad at-rim attempts. But as he becomes more accustomed to finding his teammates, those low percentage, highly contested looks get wiped away and the efficiency will go up for both White and his teammates. And Coby in particular needs to bump up that efficiency. He's always going to be a shoot-first guy, and that's okay. But there isn't exactly a huge market for sub-40% shoot-first guards who barely crack 50% true shooting. Once you're labeled an inefficient chucker, it's really hard to shake. We're not asking White to turn into Daryl Morey's walking algebra equations, but it'd be nice to see him use that elite speed to draw a little more contact, earning himself some trips to the stripe, and adding a go-to floater might not hurt either. Because if Coby gets the in-close game up to par with his outside game, he can be the total package as a 3-level scorer. And with his speed, he's a potential matchup nightmare for defenders. If you go under screens, Coby can bury the triple. Have your big sit and drop coverage, and he'll hit you with the midi. And Coby can knock down those shots with super high degrees of difficulty. White is a tough shot taker and maker, and that's a damn important skill. But it's easy to fall in love with those shots, and right now, he's in a weird in-between zone where he's trying to orchestrate an offense for the team while also finding his own. You can almost see him trying to process when to pass and when to go get his. As he gets more comfortable mixing those two worlds over the course of the season, it'll slowly but surely get better. And if the Bulls front office eventually decides that Coby isn't the playmaker they want manning the point for Chicago, these playmaking reps will still be really valuable for Coby's development as a player. It's no surprise that Coby has started off a little rocky this season. The Bulls were, after all, one of the Delete 8 teams that missed the bubble and hadn't played a meaningful basketball minute since March. So let's see how this season shakes out. Coby has already shown a small jump in his playmaking progression on a game-by-game basis this season, and if you add that newfound skill to the flamethrower we saw the final 10 games of last season, well, then Coby will have made the jump.